There comes a time in every life when you walk through a desert. Maybe you're in one right now, emotionally dry, spiritually empty, financially barren. You feel like nothing's growing, nothing's moving. It's just heat, pressure, and silence. The more you pray, push and plan, the more it feels like the sun keeps rising and the oasis keeps fading. But what if I told you that the desert isn't here to kill your dreams? It's here to clarify them. You see, most people panic in the desert. They beg for rescue. They look for shortcuts. But the strongest people, the ones who create change, who lead, who rise, they understand a deeper truth. Rivers don't form where life is easy. Rivers break open where life is hard. River in the desert isn't luck. It's alignment. It's what happens when preparation meets pressure and refuses to quit. It's the product of a person who decided to keep digging, even when everyone else walked away. You don't find flow until you fight through the stillness. You don't feel power until you face your emptiness. You've been told to fear the desert. But maybe the desert is the only place where you can finally hear who you really are. Everything is stripped away. The noise, the comfort, the distraction. You meet the one person you've been avoiding your entire life yourself. That version of you that's resilient, that refuses to quit, that doesn't need applause or validation. That shows up because they believe, not because they see. Too many people are waiting for rivers to come from the sky. But rivers don't fall, they rise from within. You want peace? Dig deeper. You want clarity? Dig deeper. You want transformation? Dig deeper. Because buried beneath your fears, there's flow. Beneath the rejection, there's redirection. Beneath your frustration, there's formation. The desert isn't denying you, it's defining you. Here's the truth. If you never had a desert, you'd never discover the river. The pain you're feeling right now, that confusion, the doubts, the pressure, it's not proof that you're lost. It's proof that something inside you is trying to break through. And the desert is only here to ask one question: will you stop digging, or will you dig until you find water? The world is full of people who gave up halfway, who left too early. That's not you. You're still here. You're still breathing. You still believe. You are not buried. You planted. And what do planted seeds do? They break, they press, they push, they rise. So today, stop seeing the desert as punishment. Start seeing it as preparation. The dry places in your life are not dead. They're dormant, watching, asking if you'll keep showing up with belief, with action, with fire. Because if you do, if you refuse to back down, one day, you least expect it, that river will burst forth. And the very desert you cursed will become the place you bless. You are the source. You are the well, you are the river. Now let it flow. Every person walking this earth has either been through a desert season, is currently in one, or will one day enter it. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. The desert looks different for everyone. For some, it's the silence after a painful loss. For others, it's the emptiness that follows burnout, or the confusion that comes when nothing in life seems to make sense anymore. And in these moments, the first thought that strikes the mind is usually, is this ever going to end? That's the nature of deserts. They trick your perspective. They convince you this moment of dryness is your final reality. But the truth is, life's deserts are never permanent. They're just a phase, not a definition. Just like seasons shift, the seasons of your soul shift too. The danger isn't the desert itself. It's how you respond to it. Most people label the hard moments as failure. They internalize the silence as punishment. They let the stillness define their worth. But in doing so, they miss the very essence of what a desert is designed to do. You see, deserts are clarifiers. They strip away the distractions. They eliminate the noise. When life no longer entertains you, distracts you, or rewards you, you're left with only one thing: truth. And that truth can be powerful if you let it work. The great mistake is assuming that nothing is happening just because you can't see the results. Taught to chase constant progress, instant outcomes, and visible success. So when life slows down or stops delivering rewards, we panic. But what if the pause is the process? What if the desert is the place where you don't grow outward, but inward? If the roots of your character are being stretched so deep in silence that you'll one day be able to stand tall in any storm, just like a seed must be buried in still soil before it breaks open and grows, people must go through seasons where everything looks dead, but something is secretly developing. In nature, the desert is not just sand and suffering. There are hidden water tables under the surface. Some of the strongest trees and deepest wells exist right in the heart of the driest places. And the same goes for your life. That job that feels like it's going nowhere might be building a discipline in you that will outlast any career. That relationship that tested your patience may have taught you the depth of your own resilience. That health battle might have awakened gratitude for things you used to ignore. When you look at it that way, the desert becomes less of a wasteland and more of a workshop. There's a shift that happens when you begin to understand that this season, this difficult, dry, uncomfortable place, isn't meant to destroy you. It's meant to awaken you. You've been asking for strength, and here's your training ground. You've been praying for clarity, and here's your silence. You've been craving transformation, and here's your resistance. The breakthrough doesn't begin when the desert ends. It begins the moment you stop fighting the desert and start learning from it. But remember this, just because the desert is temporary doesn't mean it's easy. You will feel like giving up. You will question your path. There will be moments where your faith feels small and your fear feels enormous. But even in those moments, you must remind yourself this isn't forever. You are not stuck. You are passing through. You are becoming. You are evolving. The old you may not survive this journey, but the new you will be born from it. And that's not something to fear. It's something to embrace. When you feel like life is dried up, when you're surrounded by silence and uncertainty, you see no evidence of growth. That's when you double down. That's when you anchor into discipline, lean into your values, keep moving even without results. Because deserts don't mean death. They mean delay. And delay is not denial. When you're in the middle of a hard season, don't just ask how to escape it. Ask what it's trying to build inside you. Ask what kind of person you need to become to cross it. Because every desert has an end. Every season shifts. When you make it through, you'll look back and realize it wasn't the river that changed you. It was the desert that made the river possible. What you call a desert, someone else might call destiny. The way you name your situation shapes how you move through it. Most people go through difficult seasons and immediately attach negative meaning to it. I'm stuck. I'm cursed. Nothing good ever happens to me. But the truth is, perspective is the lens through which you interpret your entire life. If that lens is cracked by fear, bitterness, or victimhood, even the most powerful lessons will look like punishment. Miss the breakthrough because you weren't trained to see it. The difference between people who grow in the desert and those who wither is rarely their circumstances. It's how they see their circumstances. The human mind is making machinery. It's not what happens to us that defines us. It's the story we create about what happened. Two people can lose the same job. One spirals into despair. The other builds a business. Two people can go through heartbreak. One becomes bitter. The other becomes better. The event is the same, but the meaning is entirely different because one person saw a closed door while the other saw redirection. You have to train your mind to see beyond the immediate. Yes, maybe right now everything feels like a desert. Your energy is low. Your confidence is shaken. Your path feels blurry. But that doesn't mean it's the end. It might be the middle. Better yet, the beginning. What if this season you're calling a curse is actually a setup for a comeback? What if the silence is not rejection, but protection? What if life is not punishing you, but preparing you? We are conditioned to seek comfort. That's natural. But growth rarely happens in comfortable spaces. Think about it. When was the last time you grew significantly while everything was perfect? It's the struggle that stretches us. It's the pressure that reveals what's real inside us. Diamonds aren't formed in luxury. They're formed under intense heat and pressure. And the same principle applies to your life. You shift your mindset and start asking better questions. What is this here to teach me? Instead of why is this happening to me? You move from powerless to powerful. It takes emotional maturity to see pain as a teacher. That maturity starts with awareness. You begin to realize that maybe the things you've been calling obstacles are actually invitations. Invitations to dig deeper, to confront what's been hiding, to develop character that's unshakable. Most people never do this. They numb themselves. They complain. They wait for the storm to pass without learning what the storm came to reveal. But the few who choose to engage their struggle, who decide to reframe their pain, become unbreakable. Because once your mind is trained to see opportunity in adversity, you're no longer a victim of your environment. You become the architect of it. You can be in the worst place and still find something to build. You can be alone and still feel full and still feel wealthy. Because abundance is not a number. It's a perspective. And peace is not a place. It's a decision. This isn't about pretending everything is okay when it's not. It's about choosing how you respond when it's not. There's a massive difference. Toxic positivity ignores pain. Real resilience acknowledges it, but refuses to be consumed by it. When your perspective is grounded in growth, even failure becomes fuel. Even heartbreak becomes healing. Even delay becomes divine. The truth is every desert has something sacred buried within it, but it won't reveal itself to someone who's looking through the wrong lens. So ask yourself, are you calling a desert today? And what would change if you believed this moment was for you, not against you? Because if you keep seeing your life through the lens of loss, you'll keep attracting struggle without growth. If you begin to view this season as necessary, even if it's not comfortable, you'll start finding rivers where others see sand. And that's when the shift happens. That's when you stop waiting for the situation to change. You start changing your relationship with it. That's when you stop asking for the desert to go away and start realizing the desert is doing work that couldn't be done in the valley. That's when you understand that the breakthrough you're chasing is already within you. It's just waiting for your vision to catch up, because the moment your perspective changes, so does your power. You're walking through a dry season of life where everything feels barren, unproductive, or unclear. It's easy to wait for some miracle to show up and rescue you. People spend years hoping for the external conditions to change, right person to walk into their life, the right opportunity to appear, the right time to come. But that's not how rivers are formed in deserts. They don't appear overnight. They're built day by day, action by action, choice by choice. They're built from the inside out. What feels like a desert in your life might not be because the land is dry. It might be because you've stopped digging. You've stopped working your habits. You've stopped aligning your energy. You've stopped believing that daily actions matter. But the truth is, rivers don't appear by chance. They're carved by consistency. What you do when nobody's watching, what you think when nobody's clapping, You choose when nothing's changing. That's what determines whether your desert stays dry or starts to flow. Daily habits are the shovel that digs the well. Every morning you wake up and choose discipline over distraction. Every time you say no to your excuses and yes to your purpose. Every time you reject comfort to step into growth. That's a dig. That's a stroke into the unseen layers of your life. And while it may not look like anything on the surface, something is shifting beneath it. Water always moves before it's visible. You feel the resistance first, long before you ever taste the result. But if you stop digging because the breakthrough isn't immediate, you'll never tap into the flow that was just a few more steps away. There's a dangerous mindset people fall into, that small habits don't matter, that if there's no big dramatic payoff today, it's pointless, that if the results aren't viral, visible, or validated, then they're not real. But that's how deserts grow, not from one catastrophic event, but from neglected moments, one skip decision at a time, one excuse at a time, one compromise at a time. The same principle works in reverse. You don't build a river by waiting. You build it by digging with intention. That 10 minutes of focused effort today, it matters. That uncomfortable conversation you didn't avoid, it matters. That single step toward growth, healing, or discipline, it matters. You don't need massive changes to create momentum. You need alignment. You need your beliefs, your focus, and your actions all pointing in the same direction. You can't say you want peace, but feed your mind chaos. You can't ask for strength, but live in avoidance. You can't expect abundance, but operate in fear. Habits aren't just about productivity, they're about congruence. They reveal what you truly value. And if you're not willing to dig with discipline, then what you're really saying is that you value comfort more than change. The truth is, when you keep showing up consistently in a desert season, you start to form something deeper than success. You form identity. You become the kind of person who doesn't wait for perfect conditions to act. Yeah. You become someone who creates the conditions by acting. And that's the person who always finds water. Because rivers don't just flow to people, they flow from people. The mindset, the character, the commitment all starts inside you. Most people miss this. They keep looking outside for rivers when the well is within. They wait for a sign, pray for a rescue. But what they really need is to return to the power of process, to fall in love with the dig again, to remember that every action, no matter how small, is either digging toward their future or burying their potential. There is no overnight breakthrough. There is no magical moment that replaces months of daily effort. The river is not a one-time gift. It's a byproduct of your grit. And if you stop now, you may never realize how close you were to breakthrough. The tragedy is not failing. The tragedy is quitting 5 feet before the water. So pick up the shovel. Pick up the habit. Pick up the discipline you put down when it got hard. The desert is testing whether you'll build when there's no applause, whether you'll commit when there's no reward, whether you'll persist when there's no visible reason to. Because if you do, eventually something will break open, not just around you, but within you. And when it does, you won't just find water. You'll become the kind of person who knows how to find it, no matter what desert life throws your way. Sometimes the greatest shifts in your life begin with the things you can't see. That's the hardest part of being in a desert season. The silence, the stillness, the waiting. You show up, you try, you push, and nothing seems to move. On the surface, it looks like failure. It feels like emptiness. What if the surface isn't where the transformation happens? What if everything you're hoping for is flowing beneath you under layers of resistance, testing your belief, your consistency, and your endurance? People crave instant evidence. That's human. We want signs, proof, confirmation that we're on the right path. But the truth is, some of life's most powerful shifts happen long before you ever see a result. Like water flowing underground, forces working on your behalf, momentum building, connections forming, clarity taking shape, all while your eyes tell you nothing is happening. And this is the space where most people quit. Not because they're weak, because they never learn to trust what they can't see. It takes courage to keep moving forward without immediate payoff. It takes wisdom to recognize that the absence of results does not equal the absence of progress. Just like rivers often run deep before they rise to the surface, growth moves through layers that aren't visible until the breakthrough occurs. And that's the critical moment when you're tempted to stop digging, to walk away, to settle for less because your efforts feel invisible. But the truth is, real power lives in that invisible space. And those who learn to stay steady during the silence, those who continue to show up when the feedback is zero, the ones who eventually create impact that can't be ignored. This is why developing internal awareness is so essential. You have to start listening to what's happening within you, even when there's no movement around you. It's not always about changing the world. Sometimes it's about changing the way you look at the world, because perspective determines patience. When you understand that water flows underground first, you're not discouraged by what looks dry on the surface. You keep showing up, not because you see the stream, but because you trust it's coming. It's like planting seeds. You don't dig them up every day to check if they're growing. You water them. You protect them. You give them time. The same applies to your dreams, your healing, your development. There is a time to act and there is a time to trust. But too many people rush the process. They dig up the seed because they panic. They walk away from the well because they don't hear the water. They confuse stillness with stuckness. But stillness is where strength is formed. It's where you learn the discipline of faith. not blind belief. Bold trust in the unseen foundation you're building. This is where character is formed. When you persist without praise, when you sacrifice without recognition, when you lead without a spotlight. These are the moments that make you unshackable. You stop being driven by outcomes and start being driven by purpose. And once you reach that state, your identity is no longer dependent on what you get. It's rooted in who you've become. If you're in a desert right now and nothing seems to be working, don't rush to escape. Instead, listen closely. What lesson is this silence teaching you? What strength is this struggle developing in you? What clarity is hiding beneath the confusion? Just because you can't see the water doesn't mean it's not flowing. Your only job is to stay aligned, stay faithful, and keep walking step by step, breath by breath. There will come a day when the river breaks through. The surface cracks open and what was once invisible becomes undeniable. And when that day comes, you'll realize the water didn't suddenly appear. It was always there. It was the persistence, the trust, the unseen layers of faith that brought it to the surface. So don't measure your progress only by what you see, because the most important growth often happens in the dark, in the quiet, in the hidden places of your heart and mind. That's where the foundation is laid. That's where the river is born. And when it finally flows, it won't just quench your thirst. It will overflow to the lives of everyone around you. There comes a point in your journey where belief alone is not enough. Intention without action dries up. Hope without motion fades. That's the tension of the desert. It asks not just what you believe, but how deeply you're willing to act on that belief. When everything in you feels tired, when results are invisible, and when doubt starts speaking louder than faith, the question isn't just what do you hope for? The question becomes, what are you doing with that hope? Faith on its own is powerful, but faith, when fused with effort, becomes unstoppable. You can't just wish your way out of the desert. You can't just affirm your way into a new season. You must move. You must act. You must make decisions that align with the outcome you claim to believe in, even when it's hard, even when it's quiet, even when nothing seems to be changing. The people who create rivers in the desert are not just dreamers, they are doers. They believe deeply, yes, but they also dig daily. They pray and they plant. They speak life, and they also show up when life feels lifeless. Too often, separate belief and effort. They either lean completely into mindset, saying things like, "It will all work out," "I trust the universe," or "I have faith," but they never move their feet, or they go the opposite route, taking action without belief, grinding without alignment, pushing from fear instead of vision. Neither of these alone creates rivers. The flow happens when belief and action dance together, when your vision fuels your effort and your effort confirms your belief. Every great transformation in history, whether in individuals, movements, even nature, was sparked by a decision to act in the face of uncertainty. Action is what moves you forward, but belief is what keeps your spirit alive when you don't see instant results. You have to build while it's dry. You have to dig when the ground is hard. You have to keep showing up when no applause comes, when the progress is slow, and when it feels like nothing's working. That's what separates those who thrive from those who merely survive. Effort without belief will exhaust you. Belief without effort will frustrate you. But when both are aligned, something shifts. You begin to create momentum, not just in your outer world, but deep within your identity. You begin to see yourself not as a victim of circumstance, but as a creator of change. You stop waiting for water to arrive and start becoming the one who taps into it. It's not about forcing results. It's about faithfully doing what you can with what you have, even when it's small, even when it's quiet. Because your consistent effort is a statement to the universe, to yourself, that you are not just hoping for the river, you are preparing for it. There's power in preparation. There's power in digging trenches when the land is still dry. Because when the rain does come, it won't be wasted. The ones who have prepared in the drought are the ones who are ready for overflow. The desert is a test of readiness, not worthiness. The effort you put in now, when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, unrewarded, is what qualifies you for the breakthrough later. You don't get to choose when the river comes, but you do get to choose whether you're building something it can flow through, whether you're shaping the channel with your discipline. You're aligning your choices with your vision. That's the daily work. That's the sacrifice. That's what turns desert seasons into defining seasons. Every time you choose action over apathy, growth over comfort, discipline over impulse, you're digging. And that dig might not look like much to the world. It may even look foolish. But the people who change their lives, the ones who inspire others, the ones who rise from nothing, they're the ones who are willing to look foolish for a season in order to live free for a lifetime. So don't wait for perfect conditions to act. Don't pause your effort until belief feels right. Move anyway. Dig anyway. Act anyway, because it's not just faith or effort. It's faith with effort that creates the flood. And when that river finally breaks through the dirt and the drought, you'll know it wasn't just belief that made it happen. It wasn't just effort. It was the fusion of the two that transformed your desert into something flowing, full, and alive. At some point, you have to stop waiting for change to come from outside and start realizing that the river you're praying for, searching for, chasing after, it isn't out there somewhere. It's inside you. That's the shift that changes everything. When you stop asking the desert to give you something and begin asking yourself what you're going to bring to it. The truth is, The moment you wake up to your inner power is the moment the desert begins to lose its grip on you, because you realize you were never meant to be a passive observer of life. You were meant to be the creator in it. So many people live waiting for permission, waiting for opportunity, waiting for someone to notice them, fix them, save them, promote them, validate them. But that's not how transformation works. Real change doesn't come when someone opens a door for you. It comes when you realize you are the door, that the strength, the wisdom, the clarity, the breakthrough, it has to start with you. You are the one who has to decide, the one who has to move. You are the one who has to step out of your old patterns and speak new life into your own future. The desert doesn't change until you do. That harsh landscape around you, the financial stress, the emotional burnout, relationship strain, the mental battles, none of that shifts until you stop treating yourself like a victim of your conditions and start stepping into the authority of who you were created to be. You can't carry the mindset of powerlessness and expect to produce overflow. You can't think like someone who's defeated and expect to live like someone who's free. There's a river buried inside your spirit. It will not flow until you stop living from your fears and start living from your truth. That shift begins in silence, in solitude, in the uncomfortable stillness of the desert where there are no distractions left. That's where you meet yourself. The surface version, the real one, the one that's been buried under doubt, fear, rejection, trauma, pressure. And when you finally meet that person, the one who is resilient, who has survived what was meant to break them, keeps getting back up even with nothing left to prove. You start to remember that you were never empty. You were just disconnected from your source. And when you reconnect with that source, that inner fire, that spirit that refuses to quit, you don't just walk through the desert anymore. You start changing it. You bring life where others see death. You bring direction where others are lost. You bring peace where others feel panic. Because when you found the river in yourself, you stop needing it from anyone else. You become the river. And rivers never beg for permission. They carve their path. They make a way through stone and sand because they are relentless. That's who you are. That's what you were born to be. And yes, people will doubt you. They'll question your vision, your timing, your courage. But that's okay. They didn't hear what you heard in the silence. They didn't feel what you felt in the dry places. They didn't carry what you've had to carry. Let them doubt. You keep digging. You keep walking. You keep flowing. Because your mission isn't to convince people. It's to live in such a way that your transformation becomes the evidence. The world doesn't need more people who fit in. It needs more people who remember who they are, who step into the fire of the desert and realize it won't consume them, it will refine them. People who wake up to the fact that strength is not a gift given by others. It's a choice made every single day. You choose to rise. You choose to keep your heart open. You choose to take the next step, even when the road is unclear. That's power. It's yours, not someday, but right now. So stop looking for rivers out there. Start becoming the river in here. Because once it flows in you, it will start flowing around you. Once you shift your identity, your environment won't have a choice but to shift with it. You are not here to survive the desert. You are here to transform it. And when the river finally flows from within, it will wash away every limitation, every excuse, every lie that told you were stuck, broken, or not enough. You'll know then the desert was never the end. It was the place where you finally remembered who you really are,